Okay, let's go again on 15 minutes. That was unfortunate. I believe not only I blundered a piece, I could have won a piece in this game if we sat in the game. Oh dear, because this bishop b5 check was just naughty. When he played bishop b5 check, I was black. Queen takes b5. It occurred to me after, queen takes b5. And instead he uses the very same tactic in reverse, in symmetry, queen takes b4. So it's not just a piece blunder, it's a double piece blunder. 2 for the price of 1, not to take on b5 here. Oh dear. Something to bear in mind anyway, if you get this position and the opponent plays bishop b5 check. Oh well. So anyway, let's watch some quality GM chess while we're waiting, or well, faster maybe. Brel 2502. It's a 5-minute game. Went the exchange up, it seems. So what happened here in this 5-minute game? Oh dear. London system, sort of with knight c3 though. Oh, it's different. Okay. Okay. Stop observing that one. Emremin. Alright, King's Gambit, good fun. There was an opportunity missed in one of the previous King's Gambit games actually to play Queen G5. I did a post-mortem, there was Queen G5. You know when the opponent played Queen E7. Yeah, these little things in the opening are quite important really. Winning pieces, not losing pieces, that sort of thing, winning key pawns. Okay. If I play D3 here, F takes maybe in bishop G5, knight G4, maybe rook F1. If he doesn't play knight G4, I think Fe for bishop G5. Maybe Queen D2 and castle queenside if I can't castle kingside. There's bishop cutting across here. He's not really going to play G5, is he? That looks like a terrible move to play. So Queen D2 and castle queenside. Queen D2 and castle queenside. Okay, if he plays say bishop E7, then I can actually castle kingside. Actually, forget Queen D2 there. Is this bishop stopping me castling kingside? But that would be useful. F file with a rook already on F1 if I can castle kingside. So bishop E7, castle kingside. Let's imagine knight E4, bishop E7, knight C3, bishop D8, knight takes D1. Is that really a trap here? Castles knight E4, bishop E7, knight C3, bishop D8, knight D1. And the knight can come out to E3 there. It's bishop C7, I'm on E5. Or knight takes B2, that might be knight E5. So it might be worth doing anyway. Or even just inserting Queen E1 after knight C3. So I think I'll do that. So knight E4, bishop E7, knight C3. What about Queen E1? Just to avoid simplification. What about pawn sack? Okay, bishop E7 here. And protect E3. Knight D4 I can take. I want to protect f2 from queen c5 check. Okay, I take, although he's on e3 here, but knight d5 protects e3 anyway, so no big deal. Queen h4, I've got h3. That rook f4 here, c6, or h3 quicker. It's knight e5. c6 that hg, so I think knight e5. There might be something fun like, well, maybe just bishop b3 there. I just got to get the knight away from e3 before it's too late. So knight e5, bishop b3. Okay, and then I can play knight f4 after. Unless there's anything stronger here, there's no knight f6 or anything. So I get to play knight f4, maybe to h5. Or rook f4, okay, knight f4. Also knight g6 if the knight wasn't there. So rook f2, double up rooks. Knight g6 takes, rook f7. It's threatening maybe bishop h3, but the knight's on it at the moment. So rook f2 is possible here, I would hope. So doubling on that queen h5 after. Get the queens off just to put pressure on f7 again. Okay, looks logical to just double on f7, focal point. Knight h5, bishop h3. Anything going on there? I can't see it. g4. Does that do anything? Rook g2. g4 stops f5. Stops h5 as well. g4 might not be that bad. Knight g4, hg, bishop g4. It's not mating. Queen d2, is it? Bishop f3 is king h2, bishop h3, king h2. So g4 might be good. Or, instead of creating a weakness, king h2, but then maybe queen h4 is annoying. So I'm tempted for g4 because I know I can play bishop g2. I'll play g4. So rook g2 and knight h5. So rook g2 here secures the fort a bit. I can evict that queen. Maybe queen e1 for h4. Or just... Oh! What about bishop d5 before the bishop gets trapped? How do I evict the queen then? Queen e1 or queen f2? Queen f2 actually keeps an eye on d4 here, as well as h4. So I think queen f2 might be the better choice. So h4 and then maybe g5 with an attack brewing. So there's queen d4 as well. Weakness in his last move. There's no knight f3 check there. And I'll be threatening h4, almost winning e5, but there's queen f6, there's knight h5, there's queen e7. Actually, isn't there queen e5, knight g6, fg, rook f8, rook f8, rook f8, king h7, bishop g8. That's an interesting line. Queen sack, knight g6, rook f8, rook f8, rook f8, king h7, double pawns, bishop g8, king moves back. That's outlandish. But queen d4 is on anyway at the moment, so queen d4. Okay, if I take here, actually it would help if the rooks were doubled in that variation, because that's nonsense what I've just said. But it might, if that rook's off that rook, then it still applies this idea of h4 queen e5 and knight g6 for taking rook f8 if that rook's not defending that one. So it's good forcing moves to keep in mind, the tactical liability relating to queen e5 and knight g6. So h4 queen e7, I could just double rooks that, now I'm going to lose g4, just g5. Okay, so h4 here, getting that queen e7 pattern, I think. So now g4 is a bit loose. I could just move the g-pawn forward first before doing anything else. There's no knight f3 yet. Okay. So say he plays h5, maybe rook f2, knight g4, knight g6. Doesn't quite work. Actually, if he moves the pawn forward, so I've got knight takes h5. In fact, isn't that bishop f7, queen f7, queen e5? If rook f7, queen e5, knight g6. But even simpler, there's just knight h5 here. Bishop f7 is tempting if rook f7, queen e5, knight g6. But knight h5, is there a problem with knight h5? Seems simple and strong. Bishop f7 might run into something. Mind you, it is threatening queen g6, so if the bishop moves queen e5, sort of winning a piece. Yeah, it does seem quite straightforward, that tactic. What would be the advantage of knight h5 over bishop takes f7? Knight takes h5. I like the idea of the temporary queen sack here for knight g6. King moves, knight takes. Say he swaps off rooks. I've got a knight on e5, it's centralised. I think I'm going to go for it. It looks quite interesting to play. So queen e5, knight g6. If knight g4, knight g6, check, winning the queen. So queen f7, queen e5. So this way, and that queen. Oh, I've just run into bishop h3. Oh dear, there's bishop h3. Oh dear, fluffed. Oh, it was fun to play anyway, but it's not the end of the world because just yet, is it? Ah, so knight h5 was safer. If I can get my king to the centre, I've got two passed pawns here. Let's start rolling. I've still got a good chance. The rook's almost getting trapped. So king e3, in fact knight d7, knight c5 traps the rook. Take away d4. If he's really going to play b4, he's trapping his own rook. Takes on a3 after that. I should have enough. So b4 looks bad. So 2 pawns for the exchange. Rook's kind of trapped. Actually, there isn't hallucinating. There isn't time to win the rook. Okay. I'll just take that pawn and play knight c4. Knight d7 takes. Knight b6. He's just going to play takes. So my king's going to come to the rescue here for this pawn over here. Knight c4, protecting that, attacking his pawn. King d2 to c3 before it's too late. Alright, I'll stop a3. Now can I start moving these pawns? Something like knight e5 or knight a5 or d4. A safe way of using these pawns. I could put the knight on f3. I'll get the rook away. I want to use c3 or maybe knight b1 to c3. He's offered the draw here. I'm not sure he likes his position a great deal. I want to put the knight on c3, I think, to attack a4. And maybe d4. Okay, so I get my pawn shield against this king coming in. So e5. So e5 or d5. e5. Pawns are getting a bit menacing. So I wonder about king d3 to c4 and have king d5. It's starting to look really good. Unless I'm being totally over optimistic, which is possible, but d5 looks good if he wants to go for my h pawn. I get the d pawn marking. Maybe g6 just to make sure he's over there. Okay. Now his rook can come and take pawns. Possibly I should have gone for that draw. Oh dear, oh dear. Knight b5, rook h3, knight d6. What about king d5 and then knight d6? Just to try and herd the e pawn. So rook h3, king d5. If he plays rook a4, king c5 maybe. He's not going for my... But if I play king d5, there's rook a5. I just need, I think, king c5. Not to block the d pawn. So king g4, there's d5. Kick the king back now. Knight c7 and then go to d5. It's offering a draw again. Interesting. So what are my chances here? The exchange down. There's, on king e6 there's knight f4 check, so I think on that merit I'll play on. If he's got king e6, knight f4 check to win h5. If I can win h5 with attacking g7, So king e6 could be a major blunder. Right, he's gone in for that. It looks like a sort of natural move, but munching quite a few pawns now. 3 pawns for the exchange, become critical. If g6, maybe knight g7 check, forcing the king forward, which would mean my pawns can go forward. His king will be away from the action if I get to play e6. Okay, he's going to win d4, does it matter? Check, I'll play e7. If I get to play e7, I'm winning the rook. e7 is win rook. Win the rook. Is that the end of the game? Or is it drawing again? You can get rid of my pawns, leaving me with just the knight. I get knight f6 in, doesn't that stop? Or not? Doesn't. So e8 takes king f4. There's now knight d6 to play knight f7. So knight d6 to play knight f7 would hold the pawn. Or just king d6, king g4, king e6, king h4, king f6. So king d6, king g4, king e6, king h4, king f6. And it's a safe ride home now, I think. He resigned. Oh! Dodgy tactics there. That backfired. It just was too attractive for bishop f7 there. I was too attracted by it. So the plain vanilla move would have been knight takes h5. But no. After knight takes h5, can't see too many issues. In fact, the knight could return back for bishop f7. That's the right move. What I played was very, very naughty. I should have been punished. And I was punished, losing the exchange anyway. There's a bishop h3 at the end of all this forcing line, bringing the king to f1, and bishop h3. That's why it's bad to enter complications. There's a big hole in the calculation. But it was interesting anyway, the exchange down for a couple of pawns. And probably he misplayed it. Definitely there. Just in time coming to rescue my pawn there. Otherwise I'm stranded with just the knight. That'd be a draw. Comments or questions on YouTube? Thanks very much.